Hey there guys, Mike here from Sell Your Service. So it turns out that writing down your goals doesn't fucking work. I want to preface this by stating that that's only half the truth. So I'm a huge fan of things like the year ahead, which is basically a goal setting strategy worksheet. And particularly this time of year, a lot of funnel builders and businesses in general write out their goals. They write out all the things they want to happen in the next year, 5 years, 10 years. Some people think, oh, long-term planning, you can't really go for that. You know, you shouldn't be planning for when you're 50. You should only be doing 13-week plans. Anyone who's seen any of my time management is not how I'd call it, but resource management videos will know that I'm a big fan of 12-week blocks and three-month blocks. We run the coaching cycles on 3-month blocks. And I'm a huge fan. I've also got Rob Moore's yearly planner here. So I'm a huge believer in writing out your goals. But here's the problem. What we find is that, like I said, especially around this time of year, we'll write out our goals. We'll go, I want to generate £210,000 in personal income. I want to generate £50,000 in passive income. I want to have £200,000 in property invested in the next year. I personally do have a plan that when I'm 50, I want to be worth at least £50 million. That I want my net worth to be that. So I have got very, very long-term goals and aspirations. Here's the problem. When we write these kinds of things down and when we use our kind of workbooks and stuff like the basics planner that I use or the Better Self planner, we never really seem to get towards these goals. And I want to ask you, the first question is, when you wrote these down, when's the last time that you read them? Now that there is the big kicker. Writing out your goals is fine. It's really important to get those kinds of ideas out on paper. First of all, we tend to start with the big stuff and we think, you know what is it that I want that doesn't necessarily have a time scale attached to it? Future thinking, years, maybe even decades ahead. In fact, I've even got a picture here on my phone. Yeah, here it is. Things like, I want to be asked to host Dragon's Den in the UK. I want to own 600 properties. I want to own a private jet. Those are long term, right? Those aren't within this year. And then we take goal planners like this and we think, okay, well, within the next year, what is it that I want to see happen? And even people think, well, planning a year ahead is it's impossible to do for. I don't agree with that. I think you need to have long-term big goals, massive, massive goals. And we kind of think really, really big and a bit ethereal. And then we shrink it down to a kind of a yearly goal. And then we shrink it down again into kind of 3-month and 12-week cycles. The difference in writing down your goals, people who achieve them and people who don't, is how often do you read your goal sheet? And it occurred to me only the other day that the first thing that I do is read my goal sheet. Even though that I wrote it, okay, and I'm comfortably aware of what they are, I will read my goal sheet every single day. So a few years ago, the BBC in the UK did an experiment where they asked people, do you think you're lucky? And they found a bunch of people who said that they are unlucky and a bunch of people who found that they said they are lucky. And what they did is they gave every single person a newspaper and they read through the newspaper. And at a certain point, the newspaper had a big advert that said, stop reading here, hand this back to the presenter and we'll give you 50 quid. And what was interesting is that the lucky people were more likely to find it and the unlucky people were less likely to find it. They had way more people who considered themselves lucky get the £50 note. And what they've equated this to is that lucky people tend to be more observant. Now, I would argue that being observant means being open to the possibility that blank could happen, open to the possibility that something could happen. Unlucky people tend to already have decided whether an event is going to be good or not or bad or not. Lucky people are open to the possibility that something's going to be absolutely fantastic and they want to go for it and they're happy to see what comes, right? What I have found is that by writing out your goals, now this is not a new process, by the way. The Secret, that kind of whole book of having a vision board and whatever has kind of gone over this. But the big difference in people who write out their goals or write out their vision boards and people who achieve things and don't achieve things are how often they read their goals. And like I said, the first thing I do every single day is read through my goals. Rob Moore's, by the way, is brilliant. His goal planner, I'll share the link for that. It basically goes through your networking goals, your yearly goals, your have goals, your fitness goals, all these kinds of things. And I write them out. And what became apparent to me is that because I'm reading these all the time, I am more open to seeing those possibilities and seeing how they happen. Now, what it does is two things, okay? Reading your goals out constantly. First of all, it solidifies them in your mind, okay? It sets that as the target. Even if they're massive, I can assure you that the guys who have said, you know what, I'm going to be a millionaire this year. This year is when I'm going to make £1 million. They didn't just write it out and then leave it and put it aside to come back to it the next year. They read that every single day. It was the first thing they read. Grant Cardone's a huge fan of writing out goals every single night. He writes, I have got 600 properties. I have got a private jet. I absolutely love that approach, but I think that the big difference is writing out different goals every single night might not be the structure that you need. And I would argue that what you might need to do is write out your goals at the start of the year, write out what you want, even the really big ones, the 50-year stuff, when you're thinking, do you know what, I'm 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, what is it that I want to do? What is it I want to be? What is it I want to be known for, have, experience, feel, do? Having them written down in front of you and then reading them every single day, being the first thing you read when you wake up and the last thing you read when you go to bed. So like I said, the first thing it does is it solidifies it in your mind and it makes it very clear what it is you're aiming for. It's much easier for me to say no to opportunities that come my way when I'm clear on what my goals are every single day. Every single day, every single evening, I'm very, very clear on what my goals are. The second thing it does, similar to the luck experiment, is it opens you up to the possibility of looking for those kind of signals. Now, some people call this universal intelligence. Some people call it the law of attraction. Some people call it mind share or mindscape. There's a lot of different, some people call it God. There's a lot of different ways that you can put this into perspective, but there is an enormous amount of evidence to suggest that by repeatedly ingraining a thought in your mind over and over and over makes that your reality. And again, the experiment between lucky people and unlucky people proves that people tend to build their own prophecies, okay? They tend to become their own self-fulfilling cycles, whereby if I believe I'm unlucky, I'm going to do everything I can to find things that prove that I'm unlucky. If I believe I'm lucky, I'm going to find more things that prove that I'm lucky. If I can repeatedly tell myself that I'm going to have over £200,000 in property this year, I'm going to do everything I can to be open to the possibility of finding ways of having £200,000 in property. This makes a massive, massive difference to your mindset. It also, I think, is a really easy way to begin to shift your mindset if you're struggling with this kind of positivity and motivation stuff. I'm up at 5 a.m. and I'm basically the same person for pretty much until I go to bed at like 11 or 12 or 1 or whatever it is. It's pretty much pumped all the way through. Now, I'll be honest, today I've had a real dip because we had some bad news for the business and had some bad personal business, but I still found time to do this video, turn on the light. Still haven't had a shave. Maybe I need to take care of that. But the reason that I do that is by going over my goals repeatedly. I will read these until they are memorized, till they are scripture, until essentially they are true. In my mind, these goals are true. They have already happened. I am now open to the possibility and opening myself to the universe and to the world and to the market. And I'm telling you guys what my goals are. And the more people who know your goals and the more open you are and the more solid they are in your mind, the more likely they are to happen because they're constantly there. Instead of changing your goals every single day, these are the long-term goals. This is how it works. So this is why writing your goals isn't enough. You have to read them twice a day. The first thing you should read when you wake up, the last thing you should read before you go to bed is the goals that you've written down. Again, another practice that I have is to write down what I'm grateful for, write down tasks I want to do. I do my task and time and list management the night before. But this here, I think, is the easiest method and route to motivation that you could find, because all you have to do is write it out once. Okay, we all have our little goal planners. I've got one on Sell Your Service. I've got the 12-week shake-up. That's what you should be reading every single day. When you wake up in the morning, that's what you should read. When you go to bed, that's what you should read. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for listening to me. We've got some awesome news coming up and things like Beaver Funnels, and we've relaunched the coaching program and all these kinds of cool things. So, and a lot of that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been rereading my goals over and over and over. Thank you to Rob Moore for his particular goal. And thank you to Year Compass for theirs as well. I've got the other sheet downstairs. So yeah, thank you to both Rob Moore and the Year Compass. I'll post the links in those below, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers, guys.